Hello and welcome to the first episode of the weekly Flashbang Report. My name is Robert Monday and I'm going to be your host for this series. Little explanation in behind what this series is going to be about. We're going to be looking at the APAC region in the CSGO scene, having a look at events, leagues, teams, players, the lot. We're going to be trying to cover as much as we possibly can every week, so make sure that you watch this space for the latest updates. What better way to kick this series off than with IEM Shanghai, an event that's been played over the past 6 days, of course, having not only being played in APAC itself, but having 4 of the 8 teams representing the region. We're going to have a look at all 4 teams, FivePower, Dreamscape, Greyhound, and Tyloo to finish things off. So without any further ado, let's get straight on into it. The first team we're going to have a look at is Greyhound Gaming. Now, unfortunately, their results were not the best, but when you look at the lineup that they were up against Tyloo and then Gambit. It's a bit of a short straw if I've ever seen one, especially in an event such as this, when not all of the teams were what you would say a top-tier team. They looked a little bit promising in their first matchup against Tyloo, going 16-10. You thought maybe these Hawaiian shirts are going to get them over the line, and possibly we might see them in a playoff at an international event, but it was not meant to be. They had to verse Gambit in their elimination matchup, and it just did not go their way. 16-7 being the first map, and 16-12, meaning that they just had to sit out and watch the remainder of the event. FivePower's storyline was similar to that of the Aussies. They were up against NRG, the other grand finalist, first in their best of 1, and it went as expected. I mean, maybe they might have performed a little bit better than most had predicted. They ended up losing the map 16-10 and then pushed into the elimination matchup. You would kind of expect it to go the same as Gambit versus Greyhound. However, no, FivePower actually went on to shock and stun the fans and players alike of Virtus Pro. They both maps into full regulation, and the second matchup was so close, in fact, that we had to see overtime to seal the deal. Virtus Pro would inevitably knock them out of the tournament, unfortunately, but nevertheless, a very promising sign for this Chinese side. Moving on to boot Dreamscape, who actually had a decent event as a whole when you look at their results. Their first matchup, they would take out Gambit 16-12. They would then head into their winners matchup where they were up against Tyloo. Unfortunately, the Chinese side would only allow Dreamscape to get 11 rounds in as little as 2 maps. So a disappointing performance coming out from the boys from Singapore. However, they would back it up when they came up against Gambit. They did a lot better. They went 19-22, went to 2 overtimes for it to be sealed. And unfortunately, Gambit take that first map, and the second map goes 16-10 to Gambit. However, this is a really promising sign, a promising event for the APAC region, as now Tyloo are not the only team that can compete against the North American and European teams alike. And speaking of Tyloo, what a performance they had in the group stages. They only dropped 21 rounds in as little as 3 maps, as although they had an easier path to walk, they were only up against Greyhound and Dreamscape. I say only, but still, both of those teams are good enough to cause an upset, but it was not to be. Tyloo put on an absolutely dominating performance and then head into that semi-final against Virtus Pro, and that was the matchup for us of the tournament. It was unbelievable. The Chinese fans were going mental, all on the edge of their seats, as we saw map 1 and map 2 both go into double overtime, but it was, of course, Tyloo to come out the victor of the semi-final. An absolute stunning match, and unfortunately it was not to be backed up in the grand final. He only managed to get 11 rounds in 2 maps against NRG. Regardless, NRG, of course, have looked very strong for this entire event and leading up to it, so Tyloo can hold their heads high knowing that they performed very nicely at this event. As for now, guys, that is all we have for the first episode. If you wish to stay up to date with the APAC region when it comes to CSGO, make sure you tune in and watch this space for the next episode. For now, from myself and the team at Respawn Ninja, we'd like to thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week.